Evolution built three completely different types of men: the family man, the playboy, the cheater. And for the last 100,000 years, these three strategies have been locked in a competition to do one thing: leave behind the most surviving descendants. Here's the part nobody tells you: there was never a single winner. The strategy that wins keeps changing, depending entirely on the world these men were born into. And the type of man winning right now, in the age of dating apps, is the exact opposite of the one that won for almost all of human history. Let's run the experiment. Cavemen to Tinder. And by the end, you'll probably recognize which one of these your own brain is still secretly running. These aren't just personality types. Evolutionary biologists have studied them for decades, and they have clinical names. So meet the contestants. The family man bets everything on one partner and a few kids and guards them with his life. Scientists call it the high investment strategy. I call it putting all your chips on one number. Then there's the playboy, the exact opposite. Maximize partners, minimize effort, spread the bets thin and wide, the low investment strategy. And finally, the most dangerous player on the board, the cheater. He runs both strategies at once: the loyal husband in public, the playboy in secret. Triple the reward, triple the risk. Keep your eye on him, because in about 3 minutes, he pulls off something genuinely ruthless. Quick thing, and stick with me because this matters. Women evolved their own set of strategies running right alongside these, every bit as cunning. That's literally part 2 of this video. But today we're following the men, because they're the easiest to watch get absolutely humbled by history. And it starts immediately, because the very first world we drop them into has a brutal built-in rule that destroys the cockiest one of the three. 100,000 BC. Let's go. 100,000 BC, the world of the hunter-gatherer. No money, no property, no houses, no marriage as we'd recognize it. Humans live in small, mobile bands of 30 to 50 people who share almost everything. So who wins here? In this world, the playboy has the early edge. With no property and no formal marriage, access to partners is driven mostly by status, physical strength, hunting skill, social influence within the group. The highest status men have more opportunities. Simple. But here's the twist that nobody expects. The playboy can't run away with it. Because hunter-gatherer societies had a built-in weapon against dominant men. Anthropologists call it a leveling mechanism. If one man got too powerful, too greedy, too dominant, the rest of the group pushed back. Teasing, gossip, shared disapproval, and in extreme cases, exile, which in the Stone Age was a death sentence. So the pure playboy gets capped. He can win, but only up to a point before the group cuts him down. Meanwhile, the family man quietly does fine. In a brutal world where most children didn't survive, a man who stuck around and protected his kids gave them a real survival edge. Slow and steady. Era 1 result: the playboy wins, but he's on a leash held by 40 people who refuse to let anyone get too powerful. For 90,000 years, that leash holds. And then humans invent one thing that snaps it instantly. And it's not a weapon, it's not a king, it's wheat. Here's how a field of grain rewired human mating forever. 10,000 BC. Everything changes. Humans invent farming. And farming doesn't just give us bread. It gives us something that rewires human mating forever: property. For the first time, a man can own land, store grain, accumulate wealth, and pass it down to his children. But that creates a brand new problem that never existed before. If you're going to hand everything you own to your children, you'd better be absolutely certain they're actually yours. And just like that, paternity matters. Suddenly, enormously. This is the moment marriage is essentially invented. Not as romance, but as a contract, a way to lock down certainty about who fathered whom, so property flows to the right bloodline. So who wins in a world obsessed with loyalty and paternity? The cheater. This is his golden age. Think about the math. The cheater publicly plays the perfect husband. He gets the social respect, the secured partnership, the guaranteed investment in his own household. But privately, he pursues additional opportunities, spreading his odds wider than the faithful family man ever could. He gets the security of one strategy and the reach of another, as long as he isn't caught. And that's the catch. In a world that now punishes betrayal severely, because betrayal resentment the entire property system, Getting caught is catastrophic. Public ruin. Loss of everything. Era 2 result. The cheater wins big, but he's playing the highest risk game on the board. Now here's where it gets genuinely wild, because the next era hands one type of man more reproductive success than any human before or since. 3000 BC. The first great civilizations rise. Egypt, Mesopotamia, and with them comes something new, extreme concentrated power. Kings, pharaohs, emperors, men at the very top of enormous hierarchies, with the resources to do something no hunter-gatherer ever could. The Playboy strategy returns, but this time there's no leveling mechanism to cap it. There's no group of 40 people to cut the powerful man down. The hierarchy protects him, and the result is staggering. The most powerful men of the ancient world maintained enormous households of partners. The first emperor of one dynasty is recorded as having a household of thousands. And here's where it stops being history and gets personal. Geneticists went looking for this in our DNA, and what they found is almost hard to believe. Across entire regions of the world, a huge percentage of men alive today descend from just a handful of ancient, high-status individuals. Let that land. A few men who lived thousands of years ago have hundreds of millions of living descendants walking around right now. Statistically, there's a real chance one of them is your direct ancestor. The Playboy strategy didn't just win this era, it echoed all the way into your bloodline. Era 3 result. The Playboy doesn't just win. At the very top of society, he wins harder than any human strategy ever has, before or since. But power like that always provokes a backlash, and the next era is the backlash, the medieval and religious era. And society does something deliberate. It slams the brakes on the Playboy. Organized religion and rigid social structures rise across the world, and they enforce one rule with overwhelming force: monogamy, one partner for life. And the penalties for breaking it become severe: social ruin, religious condemnation, legal punishment. In many societies, the consequences for betrayal were brutal and public. In a world like this, the cheater's high-risk strategy becomes almost suicidal. The downside is too catastrophic, and the unchecked Playboy of the previous era, now socially impossible for the ordinary man. The structures simply don't allow it. So who's left standing? The family man. Finally, his era. In a world built entirely around stable, lifelong, single partnerships, the man whose strategy was loyalty all along stops being the tortoise and becomes the obvious winner. The system is now designed around exactly how he was always wired to behave. Era 4 result. The family man wins, not because he changed, but because the world finally rewarded what he was doing the whole time. So we've got a Playboy, a cheater, and a family man, each winning in different eras. Which brings us to today. And today, something happens that has never happened in the entire history of our species. The modern era. And one invention breaks the entire game evolution spent 100,000 years balancing. Contraception. For the first time in human history, sex and reproduction are completely separated. The entire competition we've been tracking, every strategy across every era, was about one thing: producing surviving descendants. And now, suddenly, the link between mating and descendants is severed. Then add dating apps. A man can now connect with more potential partners in a single afternoon than a Stone Age man met in his entire lifetime. The Playboy strategy looks, on the surface, like it should dominate completely. But here's the twist. It doesn't produce what it used to. More partners no longer means more descendants. Often it means none at all, by choice. So for the first time ever, the three strategies have stopped predicting reproductive success. The game evolution built us to play no longer has the prize at the end. And yet, every man alive is still running this ancient software. The family man, the Playboy, the cheater. Those instincts are still firing in the modern brain, optimized for worlds that no longer exist. That's the strange truth of modern dating. It feels chaotic and confusing, Because you're running 100,000-year-old code on hardware it was never designed for. So here's what 100,000 years of competition actually reveals. There was never one winning type of man. There was only the type of man the environment happened to reward at the time. Change the world, and you change the winner. So here's the uncomfortable part. You've been watching these three like they're different men. They're not. They're three settings inside the same brain, your brain, switching on and off depending on your status, your environment, the stage of life you're in. The broke 22-year-old and the settled 40-year-old father can be the same person running two completely different ancient programs. You didn't choose which one is active right now. Your environment did. And the truly strange part? You're running 100,000-year-old code in a world that deleted the prize it was chasing. So the only question left is the one you have to answer yourself. Given the exact world you're standing in right now, which one is running you? Leave your answer in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want the other half of this story, the 3 strategies women evolved, which are honestly even more cunning, that video is coming next. Subscribe so you don't miss it. There's a new one every week. See you there.